Hello and welcome to SEC Baseball Tournament Reaction. I'm your host, Chris Lee, joined by Alfred Esmond. Vanderbilt has defeated Ole Miss by a 3-2 score to win the SEC Tournament Championship in this new format. Brodie Johnston has been named the tournament MVP. Really great tournaments for both teams. They have helped their postseason stocks. We'll talk about that in a minute. They have also, I think, found some things that are meaningful to take forward going into next week's NCAA tournament, where both have to feel great about how they're playing. So congratulations to Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt for winning another SEC tournament title. That is his fifth. That is Tim Corbin's 50th win in this event, Alfred. That's a record that I don't know is going to be broken given the new format. But your thoughts on what you saw today?
The SEC Network crew said it best, and this goes for the entire tournament for them. Chris completely just dominated it in hitting, pitching, and defense. And in the end, that's going to win you baseball games, and it won Vanderbilt baseball games today. Huge ups to the Commodores. We'll get into everything with the seeding for a sec, but I strongly feel that they are the number one national seed after this week. That just aside from that, though, Brodie Johnston, incredible. Big, massive home run today, along with Jacob Humphrey. Isaac Humphrey made it a little interesting in the ninth there. Things got a little dicey, but Sawyer Hawks was able to grind it out and, finish out the game without allowing Ole Miss to tie it or take the lead back. So, again, huge win for Vanderbilt, huge championship for Vanderbilt. This is, what Tim Corbin has done there since I was an infant, practically when he started coaching there. And, man, they're looking good heading into the postseason. Like I said, probably in my opinion, should be the number one national seed. And nonetheless, though, they're going to host through Omaha. So congrats to them. Very scary team to go up against right now.
Yeah, welcome to the membership tier, Mike Rapp. Thanks for doing that. And Nash, pitching and defense absolutely matter. Vanderbilt gave up 3 runs all tournament. 3. Just an unbelievable performance. Did not make an error. That ballpark fits their strengths. The ballpark they're going to be playing in fits their strengths, for next week. And if they get to Omaha, I mean, that is a team that is peaking at the right time, is Vanderbilt. I mean, and I get that the conditions were conducive to pitching this week. The ball wasn't carrying at all, for whatever reason. I don't know if it was the wind. I don't know what it was. And so that obviously that plays perfectly into Tim Corbin's playbook. But you got to go out and execute. And, oh, my goodness. I mean, you just can't execute much better than that. Vanderbilt got 2 home runs today, one from Johnston and another one from Jacob Humphrey. We had late home runs by both Humphreys, the one for Ole Miss, too, Isaac. But, yeah, just an unbelievable display of baseball. I mean, they are going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not look that good. They're playing the toughest conference in the country. Like, whoever they get in a regional is not going to be as tough as the last 2 teams they faced. And maybe Oklahoma was a decent barometer. Oklahoma without Witherspoon is a 2. So they could see a team that quality. But here's the point. They just rolled through the best tournament, the tournament of probably the best conference in the history of college baseball, and looked like that.
Yeah. Very, very impressive. Great stat there, Mike Rapp. One of just 2 teams in SEC history to win the tournament without making an error. Tell me who the first one was, by the way. That I would like to know that.
That's a good question.
I don't know who that would be. Also, Josh Carter, thank you for joining us. Yes, since 2022, the SEC tournament champ has been from the state of Tennessee. That is pretty dominant stuff from the 2 programs in the state. So great stuff there. But going back to Vandy, like you said, Chris, I agree with everything 100%. Tim Corbin, from what I've known in my short time covering the sport, defense and pitching wins you championships. It's his mantra. He says it every day when he looks at himself in the mirror. That's been what's happening here. And then the offense has just flourished. It flourished in Hoover and has been on their, 8-game winning streak now. So, massive stuff from this team. And, I mean, they've been tested. They've played in the best conference in the country, and whoever they're going to play, at least in this regional, should be a good, start for them. And if relatively, easy, slow, mellow start, depending on who they get. But they're going to be hard to beat, especially in Hawkins Field.
Yeah, they're pitching today. Austin Nye got the start. That was his second start in the SEC. It was very good today. He is their next first-round arm. It'll be 2 years from now, but he is very polished, very polished. Didn't go well for him against Kentucky last week. The wind was blowing out. He got a couple balls up, and they traveled a good ways. But he is their next dude. I think to get him a start like that on that stage, now you got it. Now they've got a pitching plan, right? Because they had Sawyer Hawks on at the last. That got a little rocky late with the home run and the walks against a tight strike zone. But in between him, Luke Guth and Levi Huseman were really, really good. Those are two of the most under-talked about bullpen arms in the league. Like, they now have a pitching plan, right? J.D. Thompson is throwing well. He can get them through 6 or 7. They can go to Hawks or a number of guys. Now on game twos, they can go Cody Bowker and Fennell as a combo to finish a game. I think that's what they were trying to do yesterday. To see how that goes is sort of a plan. So now you got one starter. And Bowker is really has been when he's good, he's really, really good. And Fennell can go a lot of innings without throwing a lot of pitches. And then you get to game 3, you got possibly Nye and a host of other arms. I just think that they are going to really, really be a tough out.
They are.
I mean, you don't have to score a lot of runs if you pitch like that.
No, and if their offense is any good and scores a lot of runs, forget it. I mean, it's going to be almost impossible, it seems like, at this stage. But great stuff there. Chris, do you mind if we rattle off the all-tournament team real quick?
Yeah, let's have it. Do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Okay.
So, Brodie Johnston, you said it, most valuable player of the tournament. He gets in the team at third base. Starting from the top with pitchers, Hunter Elliott, Connor Spencer, Ole Miss, both representing the pitcher position. Great stuff from the Rebels there with that. Cannon Peebles from Tennessee getting in the catcher spot. Jace Laviolette at the DH. Riley Nelson at first base. Judd Udermark at second. Jackson Willits of Oklahoma at shortstop. RJ Austin, Hunter Ensley, and Richie Bonamalo Jr. in the outfield for the all-tournament team. I feel good. I think Jackie Bradley Jr. said this on the broadcast. I feel really good that Jace Laviolette made it. He earned it after what he did. And, a fabulous, if Texas A&M doesn't make the tournament, which is pretty likely, fabulous career, insane career, and a really good ending to the story he had in college. He's going to be a top 10 pick in this upcoming draft when we do that stuff. And can't wait to see what he does. He's a gamer.
Yeah, not that Jace Laviolette didn't have my respect, but my goodness, the way that he handled the whole week. Everybody knows what's in the air in College Station. I mean, he had nothing. Well, I'm not going to say he had nothing to play for, but coming back, having the hand injury, getting surgery, and then playing the next day, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then the very emotional post-game press conference. I've got a lot of respect for Jace Laviolette. I mean, already had it anyway. I've always loved the way he's played, and now I've really got it. But let's talk Ole Miss for a minute, too, because I thought Walker Hooks was super pitch efficient, which is easier to do in that park. Their bullpen was not great, but fine, I think. It gave up some traffic, but kind of shut it down late. Defense was, for the most part, pretty good, and the ballpark just doesn't play to their style.
Right.
They are mash it, and that's a hard place to get them out. So, but I thought Ole Miss this tournament really, really showed us it's got some pitching that I think is getting better late. These are the two, well, let's see. I'd have to look it up between Mike Bianco, Tim Corbin, and Dave Van Horn. Those are the three longest tenured coaches in the league in some order. I think Bianco is 1. And Van Horn and Corbin are 2 and 3 in some order. They were like a year off. But those are guys that know how to navigate the rigors of an SEC season and pace your team. And I think, to me, probably one of the 5 storylines of the tournament, to me, was how well Ole Miss pitched despite having one of its rotation guys out. And I don't know how long that's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like I just named the list. The 2 pitchers on the all-tournament team were from Ole Miss. That's
Yeah.
kind of hard. That's very hard to do, with 16 teams in the field that played this week. And Connor Spencer and Hunter Elliott, very well deserving of that list. Calhoun, I thought, on the back end of the game today was very good for Ole Miss pitching-wise. Didn't give up any hits, or gave up 1 hit and no runs, no walks, struck out 2. Yeah, they proved, Chris, that they're going to host in some facet, and probably should be pretty well safe as far as a seeding point goes, like not 14, 15, or 16. I think they should be in there higher. And I think metrically it stacks up to do that, right? Because I think I have the RPI in front of me, and they are 10th according to D1 on their site. So, I think that they are safely a host now. Very impressed with Ole Miss. Buy stock in them. That their pitching was great, and like you said, Mike Bianco just knows how to, kind of formulate his team during these tough postseason stretches. Where if you go far in Hoover, your pitching is stretched out. You don't have as much juice left. You don't know what to do necessarily. But they were right there in this game. I mean, in the bottom of the ninth, or in the top of the ninth, they had 2 guys on, and the go-ahead run was at the plate. You know what I mean? They were in a position to really take the lead there and just couldn't quite do it. So, that close to winning an SEC tournament title. Nonetheless, trust that Bianco will get his team to turn the page and focus on the NCAA tournament, because not too long ago they made a really big run for a national title. Something similar could happen.
Yeah, and I think they're in the same spot. Elliott, I think, is a guy you absolutely want with the ball in game ones. And again, he's not, and I don't know if they'll flip it up a little bit and maybe put Elliott in game 2, but like he's not dominant, but he's hard to hit. He just doesn't give you much. He works the corners very well. I think sitting in a dugout for 2 years and watching other guys pitch helped him. We've heard, I think, broadcasters talk about that a little bit. I think that Riley Maddox was really good in this event. And, Mason Morris is that jumbo bulk inning guy who's been so good all year. You could go maybe Maddox and Morris in a game 2 situation. If Elliott can get you, say, 7 on a Friday, you can probably go to Connor Spencer for 1 or 2 potentially, depending on the pitch count. And then Hooks look good today. Will McCausland's been really good late in the season. I don't think we've talked anything about Hudson Calhoun, but he showed me something today. Taylor, they called him Robbie or Raby, I can't remember. R-A-B-E. I always thought that was pronounced Robbie, but I'll trust the broadcasters on it. He looked pretty good today. I mean, did get in a little bit of a pickle early when he came in, but I mean, I think now that's the biggest thing. I just really haven't been as high on Ole Miss until late in the season, because it just didn't think the pitching was going to add up in the end. But I'm starting to change my mind on that a little bit. I think there's enough there with the way they hit that if they got to Omaha, it would not surprise me.
Me neither. The pitching's durability really got tested this week for how far they went, and it showed. So both of these teams, they're going to be in different spots, obviously, seeding wise, as far as hosting goes. But the momentum they have is similar in the sense of, hey, if it's all together, they're almost impossible to beat. So watch out.
Yeah. All right, let's talk hosting. I mean, my goodness, Vanderbilt is the number 1 national seed. I think is on the table. I say this all the time. I'm neither God nor mind reader, so I just don't know. But when you're number 1 in the RPI and you're number 1 in the KPI, and those are the 2 metrics the committee uses, they went, 19-11 in the league, or 18-12? I'd have to look that one up. Regardless, and didn't play South Carolina and didn't play Missouri. Also didn't play Texas and LSU, so there's that. But you dig into the resume. Strength of schedule is number 2. Out-of-conference schedule wasn't tremendous, but it was, I think, top 85. So there's not a black mark there that you can hold against them. I mean, the only thing it was 19-11 conference, by the way. The only thing that you might, I mean, they had 1 quad 4 loss, which isn't uncommon, but none in quad 3. They were 10-9 on the road, 4-2 at home. Now, Texas, kind of the same thing, right? Texas didn't leave you a whole lot to complain about, but did, I think, play played Missouri and South Carolina both, I believe. Yeah, the teams Texas avoided were, let's see, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. Didn't play South Carolina. Tennessee and Vandy. So easier conference schedule, easier out-of-conference schedule. Both won 42 games. Texas had 4 fewer losses. Let's see. The difference really was Vanderbilt had 11 wins in Quad 2 and 1 loss, and Texas had 7 wins and no losses in that quad. The other things, Texas had fewer Quad 1 losses. I probably should stop. People can read a sheet themselves, but
Right.
point is there's not a lot of separators there. Texas did get the regular season title, which I'd obviously much rather have. And to me, I've always thought that was going to make taking Texas off that top line really, really tough. Really, really tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a metric thing someone did on Twitter in front of me, and it's all leaning Vandy, Chris. I mean, Vandy has number 1 RPI, number 1 KPI, 18 Quad 1 wins, number 1 in LEO, number 2 in strength of schedule, and the SEC tourney champs. Aside from the SEC champion difference, Vanderbilt has them beaten everything. That to me is like, if you look at it metrically, it should be Vanderbilt. I don't know if they're going to lean on Texas, winning the league by, what was it, a 2-game difference or something like that in the end. But I think if you look at it from a recency standpoint and you put a little bit of value into conference tournaments, it's going to have to be Vanderbilt. I think this, and especially with them winning it now, I think I would lean there. And it's tough for Texas, I understand. But like I said last time we did our reaction, Texas, when they lost to Tennessee, that's fine. They're obviously prepping for the NCAA tournament, but they kind of just like laid in their bed and said, come and get it. And I think Vanderbilt came and they got it this week. So that's what happened in the end.
And I don't think the conference tournament should be given as much weight. Teams are going into it trying to do different things. You saw Texas start a walk-on Ethan Walker, although he pitched extremely well against Tennessee. So I discount that somewhat. Now, here's what I do think might matter. Like, how do you look? Who would you rather play right now, Texas or Vanderbilt? I think you don't want to play either of them, but right now it's probably Vanderbilt. Having said that, Max Blue's back for Texas. I'm sorry, probably you'd rather play Texas right now is what I meant to say.
Right.
But Texas did get Max Ballou back, and a few more reps. That discussion could flip pretty quickly. And I think Texas having gone so much of the year without him has to be a factor too. So I think it's all that. It's conference title versus like watching them play ball right now. And man, Vanderbilt, since exams have been over, has just been red hot, and I'm going to pull it up. This is how the team's finished. Okay. Texas was swept at Arkansas, lost 2 of 3 at Florida, won 2 of 3 against Oklahoma, and then lost to Tennessee in the tournament opener. No, that's a tough draw there. You're catching Florida when it's hot, Oklahoma at its park, and you're catching Arkansas on the road. And you're also catching the Tennessee team that was playing to win with Liam Doyle in that game. But that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gosh, Texas has lost 7 of its last 10.
Yeah, they have not been winning as much as they've been losing. They've been losing a lot more.
Yeah.
It's all, to me, this has to be trendy in some sort of way. And trendiness favors Vanderbilt, and even just pure season-long metrics, it's Vanderbilt in the end. So it's tough for me now to leave Texas at 1, even though some, outlets have been doing that throughout this year. I still think, though, at this stage, it's going to be hard come tonight for the committee to be like, we're going to stick with Texas after seeing what Vanderbilt has done and how they've built themselves up recently. I think in the end, that's the difference for me.
Yeah, Vanderbilt won 8 in a row to end the season. 3 of those came against Tennessee, which I believe will host. 3 of them came against Kentucky, which I believe will be in the tournaments at 3. 1 of them came against an Ole Miss team that I think will host, and an Oklahoma team that will be at 2. If you want to go back a little further to Game 3 in Oxford, Vanderbilt won what? Add 3 more wins and a loss to that. So
right.
11 of their final 13, and all of those against teams that are, Alabama, if it wasn't in the SEC, was probably going to be hosting a regional.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt won 2 of 3 there. So, yeah, I mean, I think the more I look at it, I still haven't made up my mind, but I think that might be where this goes.
Mm-hmm. I think so. It really, for me, it was when the game went on, and I started to realize Vanderbilt's going to hold on here. That was after Isaac Humphrey's homer. The more I realized that was happening, I was like, it's going to have to be these guys. Like, I don't know, with Texas kind of sitting on the couch watching all this, how they're still going to be the number 1 national seed when it's all said and done. So, that's where I lean. Josh, I do like your 8. If you want to ask me to, I saw it flash briefly.
Oh yeah, I think here we go. Yeah, I would not put Oregon State in my top 8 either. I think it's defensible. I don't know what to do with LSU because the RPI and the KPR just are borderline, very borderline top 8. But then if you watch the team, I mean, my goodness, it feels like if LSU's not a top 8 team in the country, what are we doing here?
Right.
It reminds me a little bit of Vanderbilt in 2015. Vanderbilt had won the national title in 2014, brought back the same bunch of guys, and so everybody knew they were good. And this is when they just seeded the top 8 and then just paired you geographically. So I don't know what Vanderbilt's seed was that year, but Vanderbilt did not get a top 8 seed and got sent to Illinois for Super. Did host, made it out that way. So I don't remember what the metrics were that year. Obviously, they weren't good enough for the committee. Obviously, the committee knew how good Vanderbilt was because of the year before and all the pro prospects. But you have seen that happen sometimes. Now, here's the interesting thing. The chair of the committee is Southeastern Louisiana's AD. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know that I want to live in that state if I'm the guy that sends LSU on the road for the second weekend. So I'm gonna say they stay in. Coastal, I think, is a really good bowl team. I'm trying to think who he's got out. I think I had Clemson ahead of Coastal in the top 8. But you know what? They played head-to-head, didn't they?
They did. Coastal beat them in that series.
They sure did. So, I mean, that's what huge. I thought. Did they play 2 or did they play 3?
They played 2 and swept them. Both at Doug and what's the name of their other? Springs Brooks Stadium in Conway.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're right there together and, Coastal just didn't play many. They only had 9 quad 1 games. I think 10 after today. And did they hang on and did they beat Southern Miss or is that one still going?
They're on the verge. They're up 7-5 in the 9th.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's defensible. The KPI is 19, Clemson's is 8. Probably just depends on how heavy they're going. But man, they only lost 11 games all year. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. That is nuts.
So I could see it now. Yeah. Now if you put them together and it's those 2 teams for one spot, then I can see it.
Right. Unfortunately, and you do bring up a good point, Josh, about Oregon State. They just didn't have any games to work with this week, so they kind of get the brunt being on the border of a national seed, getting booted out in the end. They did a home run, Oregon State.
Yeah.
They did do a home run derby this week, which was awesome. But I guess when you have nothing else going on, that's what you kind of got to do to keep yourselves entertained.
See, I don't know what to do with them. The metric, the RPI is 6. The KPI is, and we'll talk about this tonight. I think we're gonna have a separate broadcast where I'll give you my field, and I think we're gonna do it when they are announcing the seats. And so I probably won't get all 16 hosts. And I'll have to reshuffle for in the morning once we learn. Okay, you got this team hosting and they're not. But Oregon State this year. Okay, 18 in KPI, 6 in RPI, got swept by Oregon in 4 games, by the way. But they've beaten UCLA once on the road, Cal Irvine twice, and then beat Virginia, which may or may not get in the tournament. Those are all their wins against the teams that are going to be in as 3s or better.
Right. Well, they're just gonna host and I think be okay with it. I still think they'll end up. I guess the threshold. Well, I'm not so sure. So they would go, according to Josh, if they get through their regional, to Coastal for a Super. That'd be entertaining, non-SEC
Yeah.
wise, but we'll see. Sam, speaking of the Big West, 2-bid lead now. The league now, Chris. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, did Cal Poly win?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that
And
steals one from
Irvine's good
somebody.
enough to get in. So those two will be in.
Okay.
Something to watch out for.
We had a bid steal yesterday in the American when Tulane and ECU made it to the title game. So that's 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because UTSA is going to get in as probably a 2 seed, and that my guess is get sent to Austin.
Right.
But let me check the scoreboard quickly. To see what's going on. Okay. Yeah, you said Coastal and Southern Miss going to the 9th. I mean, if Southern Miss does, and they got 1 on and 2 out, so it'll be over to me. I was going to say, if Southern Miss does win this, that could put them in as a host. They've got an AD on the committee. To me, I think it's tough to justify Southern Miss hosting without. I mean, it's not impossible, but I would not put them in at the moment. But we'll see how that one goes. Like, if you win the conference tournament over Coastal, okay, maybe you've got a little bit more of an argument because the metrics move up a little bit and so on.
Yeah, I think that this was the hosting game for Southern Miss. I don't know with the Big 12 pressure and then obviously the SEC teams. I don't know how you put them in above those teams that have made the case to host, whether it be TCU or Arizona. Arizona's a little more borderline, but they do have the Big 12 title to their name to back it up. So that one gets a little more dicey for me, but tough too. I mean, my guess is they get sent to Oxford now. Southern Miss. I don't know for sure.
Well, hold that thought a minute. I just saw another score. Nebraska 5, UCLA nothing, bottom of the 6th in the Big Ten tournament final. Nebraska is not an at-large team, although the RPI's got it in range, but I don't think 15-15 on the Big Ten in the regular season is getting the Huskers in. If it beats UCLA, I just think UCLA's resume is incredibly questionable. The RPI and the KPI are there. They're in the top 16, but meat on the bone just isn't there. And frankly, Alabama should be in the hosting discussion. I mean, it did so much more than all these teams we're talking about for 14, 15, 16, or at least 15 and 16. But
right.
I'm guessing that's not happening. Western Kentucky did win the Conference USA. So Western was a borderline at large that is now getting in. So that's good news.
Mm-hmm.
And ETSU and Sanford, was that a one-off today, or were they playing too?
I'll double check. I think ETSU
they did win, and I think that's another one where ETSU had an large case without winning the auto bid. So if Sanford had gotten in, that's another spot. So that's some good and some bad for your bubble teams today.
Right. ETSU won the SoCon tournament, so they're the one in. I want to correct myself too. Cal Poly won, forcing a winner-take-all game today. So, nonetheless, that is a bid steal watch for sure because Cal Poly killed Irvine the first game. So
I was going to say they got Irvine last night, and now the RPI is in the top 30. I don't like their resume, but man, when you're inside the top 30, it becomes a little tougher to leave you out.
Right. Yeah.
And let's see what they are now. By the way, I think Bryant won the America East now, or do they have another game to go on that? And East Carolina has beaten Tulane to get a bid. East Carolina was nowhere near the at-large picture this year, but now we'll be playing ball probably somewhere on the East Coast.
Bryant is currently playing.
There's a game too?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are tied with Binghamton.
Okay.
3-3.
All right, go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of Kentucky talk in the chat. Yeah, I think they're going to be a little nervous watching the show at least. I gotta go and extensively look at the field, what people are saying, but they are definitely on the border after what they did in Hoover. So that's how I look at them. I wouldn't count them out completely. I think they're a little more safer than others, but there are definitely some nerves. You're going to be on the edge of your seat if you're a Kentucky fan watching the selection show.
Yeah, I got them probably 5 or 6 from the cut line.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, a lot of the teams, I don't think Southern Cal had a good week. Oklahoma State didn't. Kansas State didn't. Arizona State didn't. Connecticut won a couple of games. And I'm guessing Connecticut is going to get in because it played so well late in the season, and it just goes on the road so much, and it does play a tough non-conference schedule. Plus, it's just challenging to play baseball in Connecticut.
Right.
For a number of reasons. So I still think Kentucky's in. The RPI and the KPI entering today, 36 and 38. Again, both 3-seed range. Won a series at Tennessee, swept Oklahoma, took single games from Texas, Georgia, and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing that Nick Mingione did this year, and I think he tried, is their non-conference schedules just didn't play out like it has in the past.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you there. That's also a slight Tennessee problem, the more I've noticed, is their non-conference, when you look at it, is just not up to snuff, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that is the thing. I think that everything else is loud enough that you could put Tennessee in, but the committees are run by people, and people have different ideas.
Right. Just to put it
go ahead.
Their top non-conference slate that they had was that weekend in Houston, and those teams were Rice, Mississippi State, and A&M, all of which are not going to make the tournament. So,
well, Mississippi State will, but they didn't play them. Who did they play?
Right.
They played Arizona and Oklahoma State. So that's 2 wins against teams that I think Oklahoma State is probably getting in now,
right.
And Arizona was getting in anyway, but just won the Big 12 tournament. So
I did forget that got mixed up. Yeah, so maybe there's a little something there, but that's the top of what they had, really, where they won. So
yeah, let me check something. Tennessee's got a 10 KPI, a 13 RPI. I mean, this, again, your thing if you're looking to leave Tennessee out is didn't win 6 of its last 7 weekends, but did get a game in all of them and non-conference schedule. If you want to pick your reason, those are your reasons. I still think the body of work is loud enough that Tennessee should be in.
I do too. On record, I think they are pretty safe, is what I'll quote it as, to host.
Okay, I think to me, this is what I've got at the moment, okay? And I'm going to crunch everything again after this is over, and we'll go live tonight, probably a few minutes before they announce the hosting. And I'll give you what I've got. But this is the order I've got it right now. I think I'm going to flip Vanderbilt to 1. I had him at 2 going into the day, and maybe that was just kind of a, if you win it, you get in. If you don't, ride with Texas. So I'm going to go Vanderbilt 1, followed by Texas, Arkansas, North Carolina, Georgia, Auburn. Gosh, I had Clemson at 7 and LSU at 8. But I could be convinced to move LSU up a spot, move Coastal into 8 and not Clemson to 9.
Mm-hmm. Coastal's officially won the Sun Belt tournament. So
okay.
that was what was needed. There you go.
Yeah, that might be pretty loud for a top 8. And Clemson didn't really – okay, they won a series at Georgia Tech, one series at Louisville and Wake – or not at Louisville, at home against Louisville and Wake and Notre Dame. And, yeah, I mean, 1-3 at Florida State. I guess didn't play North Carolina. I don't know. I mean, I'm fine either way, but I'm very curious. I just think with Clemson and Coastal in the same range – And Coastal haven't beaten them twice, once at Clemson, and haven't gone 47 and 11. And by the way, the DSR, which is D1's quality rankings, which don't count, but that's a good test to me to say, all right, of all these teams that I didn't see play, and that's the computer ranking that I trust the most, Coastal was 7 coming into today. So that tells me that's just not an RPI trick. So anyway, I would go. I had Clemson, LSU, Coastal in that order. I'm going to rethink that between now and tonight. I had Ole Miss at 10, and I think I'll leave them there. Florida State behind them at 11. I don't know what to do with Oregon and Oregon State. I keep sliding Oregon down. 8 losses, quad 3, 4 quad 4, and again, I just don't think Oregon State did much. Didn't lose a lot of games, but didn't beat a lot of people either. Oregon State's numbers are better than Oregon's, but again, Oregon beat them head-to-head for all 4 times they played. I pondered moving Tennessee up. See, here's the thing. I just wonder what they're going to do for Oregon winning the Big Ten regular season and being the 1 seed in the tournament. Didn't make it to the finals. I thought, well, if Oregon wins both, probably a top 8 national seed. Now it hasn't, and now that it's slid down a little bit, you have to start looking at the flaws a little bit. So I don't know. I think, to me, I could see Tennessee sliding up a little bit and passing both the Oregons, but I don't know. And then I probably, heading into today, was going TCU 15 and UCLA 16. But again, UCLA's resume to me just wasn't, 3-7 in quad 1. Although they did beat a lot of teams that I think are heading to the tournament. Well, not a lot, but a few. But it's mostly 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
It's your Irvines, your Southern Cals, your Arizona States, your Connecticut, your Cal Polys. So that's not beating the teams that, certainly not the teams that Alabama beat. And again, I think Alabama ought to be in the discussion, but I'm just kind of assuming they're not going to give them 9. So to me, I had Tennessee 14, TCU 15, UCLA 16, had Georgia Tech 17, Dallas Baptist 18, Southern Miss 19. And Irvine 20, kind of hanging around the board, and then also Alabama under consideration, which, again, I don't think is happening, but we'll see.
Okay. Josh, I was about to ask that too. My one I had with yours was TCU. I like that, Chris. I think TCU did enough to earn it in Arlington this week. I like them in there. Josh had Georgia Tech in there. Did you say Georgia Tech?
I had them, I think, my 17, but I'm going to look at all those again now that we've got some results from today and even from RPIs and KPIs probably moving around a little bit, even for teams that didn't play. Mm-hmm. If a team bumps up a couple of spots in the RPI from like a 14 to a 12 or something like that, because they're not playing, but teams they played did well today.
Right.
When it's that close, you just look at everything, and I want to take a fresh look at it between now and tonight. What big wins does Georgia have? Georgia swept Auburn, right? It did. It took 2 of 3 from Arkansas, swept Florida in Gainesville, took a series from Oklahoma, took a series from Kentucky, got wins over Georgia Tech and ETSU neutral site. Georgia's got a really good resume.
Fabulous. They're gonna be in the top 8. I would be shocked if they're not. Beat Georgia Tech. I think you said that right. Yeah. Beat Oklahoma in a series. I'm just going through their full schedule. Beat A&M to end the year. Hoover Run was a little much of a damper, but so was a team like Auburn's. I just don't know how much that affects those guys. I still think that they're like LSU, kind of still safe at the back end of the national seeds, like where you had them.
Here's another thing now that I think about it. With Coastal having representation in its league and just having beat Southern Miss, who I think has got representation on the committee, I'm going to say that Coastal gets a top 8. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to slide LSU to 7 and Coastal to 8, kick Clemson down to 9, which will be just in front of Ole Miss.
Okay. I like that.
So then
too.
Coastal and Clemson would get the rematch on the turn at the 8-9 there.
Wonderful.
Which I do wonder if they would try to avoid that.
Well, I think that creates a really good super. You have Coastal, who would be the top Cinderella quote unquote to get back to Omaha. Then you have Clemson trying to get back there for the first time in forever. That's really been the story of that program recently. So I think that creates and they can look for revenge against Coastal, who had their number this year. I think that creates a really good storyline. So I like it. I'm on board with it.
Well, get this. If I keep LSU at 7, Ole Miss at 10, Coastal at 8, and Clemson at 9, here's what you get. You get LSU, Ole Miss, and Baton Rouge in the Super if Chalk wins out, and you get Coastal and Clemson. Now, all I have to do is flip Ole Miss and Clemson, and then it becomes Ole Miss and Coastal and LSU and Clemson.
I say get you to the committee. That sounds perfect to me. Big SEC rivalry, and then in-state South Carolina, huge heavyweight matchup.
So you say leave it the first way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do wonder, though, and here's another one I've been wondering, okay? Let's say Vanderbilt gets a 3 and Tennessee gets a 14. That doesn't feel like a reward for Vanderbilt. And I know that it took I know that Vanderbilt got the better end of Tennessee this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think in the back of their heads, both teams are probably going, I don't think I like that pairing, right?
Right, yeah. I'm with you. I think that's something they just wouldn't want. I don't think they'd really want it at all.
Josh, that's a good question. I just, metrically, there's no reason to knock Auburn. 3 RPI, 5 KPI, 15 and 12 in quad 1, swept LSU, took 2 from Vanderbilt, took 2 or 3 from Tennessee on the road, 2 or 3 from Alabama, took 2 from Georgia Tech, 2 or 3 from Kentucky, 2 or 3 from Mississippi State. I just don't know how you keep Auburn out of it. I get it. And they tailed off a little bit late as Sam Dutton faltered a little bit. But I just don't think you can.
I don't think so either. I think it's too good to do that. Even if they wouldn't want 6 of 8, I just don't. I would be beyond shocked, because then you push up who into the 8? Oregon State, right, or something like that, and that's I don't know.
Yeah, see, I do kind of hope if there's that they just pair them with other leagues.
Mm-hmm.
If you can move one team up or down a spot, move your non-national seed up or down a spot, and don't give us LSU, Ole Miss. Give us LSU and who did I say? Clemson. Do it that way if you can.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get it. Georgia doesn't always look great, especially away from Athens, but the wins were pretty loud. And Georgia was the number 1 RPI team up until I think this week.
Yeah.
Played a top 5 schedule.
They have the win. It's a lot like Auburn. They have the wins to put themselves up there. So
right.
Again, the one weird scenario where these teams shoot themselves is what they did in Hoover to me, but I just don't think that's enough. That I just don't, the realism in me doesn't see that being enough to do that. So that's where I'm at.
Let's see, on the scoreboard, Nebraska still 5-0 now in the top of the 7th. And the Huskers threatening to do a little bit more with the man on 3rd. I think that might be enough to knock UCLA out of it. Because you've already got 2 teams. Well, the problem is there are 2 teams in Oregon. So, everybody is, a plane ride away.
Right.
But you could still keep teams that are used to being on West Coast time there, like Arizona State, if you wanted to, those kind of teams, where the conferences don't collide. Do it that way.
Yeah.
So if one of the things I thought was a little bit in UCLA's favor was that if UCLA did host, that Irvine was right there. And I think Irvine's a 2, and it's 50 miles away.
Yeah.
Now if UCLA's not a host, UCLA's flying somewhere, Irvine's flying somewhere.
Right.
Which is not how I think decisions should be made. But again, I think it's been alleged that the NCAA tries to save money where it can, and you can say, hey, look, Big Ten champion. What, top 4 league in the country?
Yeah.
UCLA had to travel all over the place because of conference realignment, which, UCLA made that choice too.
Just ask Mick Cronin how he feels about
it. Yeah, we should have Mick Cronin on the pod.
We should. You got to fly to New York and back, and then back to New York again, and then back again. He wasn't the biggest fan of it, but
yeah, Josh, that's the problem. I don't know. Irvine could probably go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
And don't count this out yet either, okay? If Irvine wins the conference tournament, did win the regular season, they could get slipped in there too.
Yeah, they could.
I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not the craziest thing that I would have seen. If Southern Miss doesn't host, then I think Southern Miss is going to probably Oxford.
That'd be my
Could be Baton Rouge. Let's see, where this Southern Miss has got they are in range of a lot of hosts. I looked this up where they don't have to fly. Because the rule is 400 miles, right? Mm-hmm. 400 miles or more, you've got to fly. And they are $299 from Auburn. Let's see. Yeah, $299 from Auburn, $169 from LSU, $338 from Florida State. If Georgia Tech hosts, there's $376 there. If Alabama hosted, $180. Don't think that one's going to happen, but just in case. $249 from Ole Miss. So Southern Miss is one of those teams. See, I think what they'll probably do, this was me. If you're trying to save money, I'm trying to find teams that can't go that many places without a plane ride. I'll give you an example. I have had Vanderbilt paired with Louisville for some time because Louisville can only go to Knoxville or to Nashville without a plane ride among all these teams that I've got hosting. Now, Georgia's close. It's 480. Alabama's 420 if Alabama were to host. Ole Miss is 429 if Ole Miss were to host. But I think that's the cutoff, and I think it's strict. If you're over that, you bus. If you're not, or if you're over that, you fly. If you're under it, you bus. So under that, if they're looking to save money, there's only 2 places Louisville can go among all these teams we're talking about. One's Nashville, one's Knoxville. Well, you look at Knoxville, and here's your range of possibilities for Tennessee if you're hosting. Georgia Tech, if Tech is not hosting, $213 to Atlanta. North Carolina State, $371. Duke, $337. Wake, $257. So I just don't think when Louisville's only other option is Nashville, and Tennessee's got a lot of other choices, because then you're flying somebody to Nashville for sure.
Right.
That's a 2. Assuming Louisville's a 2, which I think it is. I seem to be I think I'm seeing Louisville as a 3 a lot. I saw somebody with Kansas State as a 2. I don't see that at all.
I don't either.
I mean, to me, they're another one of those teams that just didn't beat a lot of people.
Right. Is West Virginia in play for any of those places or no?
I don't know that West Virginia is within a – okay. Let's see. Where can West Virginia go? West Virginia is 400 miles from every single place that I think could possibly host. Closest was 421 to Knoxville. And I didn't do campus to campus. I just did, okay, Wake Forest is in Winston-Salem and Vanderbilt's in Nashville. Throw it in Google. Tell me how many driving miles is it. Now, if I'd done, if one campus is far on one side of town and one's on the other, maybe it sneaks in under 400 by a mile or 2 and I'm wrong.
Right.
I didn't go that deep in the woods, but yeah, and you're right about that, Josh. And I did think about that too. If you're going to fly a team a long distance, fly them to Nashville instead of, say, flying. Can you imagine trying to get Irvine to Conway, South Carolina to play Coastal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, Murray State to Vandy. Murray State can go a lot of places too, and Murray State is clinched. I did that one earlier today. Murray State can go. Arkansas is 389. I bet you wouldn't have thought that. Vandy 119. Alabama, which is probably not going to host, 306. Knoxville 296. Oxford 187. So Murray State can go a few places too. And Western Kentucky's another, and there'll be a 3. Western can go a ton of places. Western's 400 miles from Vanderbilt, Georgia, Auburn, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Ole Miss.
A lot of options for our area specifically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
What I think I'm going to do when I put this together, if it doesn't make for a lopsided bracket, I'm going to try to find the situations where teams are very locked into 1 or 2 spots without flying and do those first. Again, I'm going to have Vandy Louisville. I know Vanderbilt fans don't want to hear it. And Vanderbilt hasn't played Louisville in a regional actually in a long time. They've been to Super, I think about a dozen years ago, and they play every year in a rivalry game. And I think everybody knows that. So maybe the committee says, hey, we'll throw Louisville somewhere else and fly someone into Vanderbilt. I don't know.
Right.
But to me, common sense would be if you can. And by the way, Louisville is not one of the 2s that I think you are just terrified to be stuck with. I think Louisville's one of the last 2s in the field. So if Vanderbilt's a 1 or 2 is a 1, that makes sense if you're going to kind of S-curve it. Which that's the other thing I try to do if I can, is if I've got something close and everything else checks out, S-curve it.
Right.
To get balance, which they try to do.
Good point from Wes, too. Vanderbilt should be afraid of no one right now. I don't think they're in a position to be. So,
yeah, D1 had Tennessee's West Virginia, Western Kentucky, Miami. I don't think that's an easy draw. I don't know what to make of West Virginia. Again, they're going to have to fly somewhere. See, I don't know. I just think that there's too many ACC schools that can go to Knoxville.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you the one I don't think you want. That's Duke.
You don't want one what?
I think Duke might be the 2 you don't want.
Oh, if their bats are clicking, they're really, really scary. That's the kicker with them. So yeah, their fault this year has been on and offness, and they started the year horrifically bad. But if they have it on, they are a really, really dangerous team. They're also kind of in the field of teams who are like, we want to get to Omaha, like we need oxygen kind of program school. So they're hungry wherever they go.
Josh says Duke is going to Athens. Where did I have that?
Lots of home runs, if that's the case.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Tons.
Let's see. When I was playing around with it last night, I had Duke. Yeah, I did have them going to Georgia.
They're going to get
East Carolina won the American, right?
Yeah.
See, I had Tulane going to LSU because I thought Tulane had the driver's seat in that one. So that's not a possibility more. So that reshuffles things a little bit too.
Shout out Cliff Godwin in a rebuilding year, apparently doing this.
Boy, no joke. You lost Zach Root.
Yeah, as steady as they come. I mean, it's inevitable with them.
Yeah. Miami to Baton Rouge. Miami's another team that I don't think could go anywhere without a plane flight.
Right. Randall, from what I've seen from them this year, they had a really good push in the middle of conference play where they won, I think it was like 4 or 5 consecutive series. And that's what's pushed themselves into the NCAA tournament. The one thing I will say, horrible trip to Durham for the ACC tournament. They were a part of that Cal run that knocked teams out early. So there's that. I want to be too intimidated by this Miami team. It's good to see. I mean, it's a historic baseball program, so it's good to see them in the field just in general. That's not where I wouldn't want to be going to Baton Rouge if I were them.
Yeah.
Is how it would
Mike. Vandy has played Louisville a lot, but I think it's been a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think if you're S-curving it, Louisville's, I think, 40 in DSR, which, again, not going to be used, but that's the quality ranking that everybody looks at a lot. So, I mean, that would tell you Louisville's not even a 2 seed. But I think the RPI and KPI are going to have them as a low 2.
Right.
Plus, 500 in the ACC. And did beat Vanderbilt early in the year. So there's that. But let's see. I'll tell you what. See if you get the trickiest team for me to place. See if you can guess. I'll give you a hint. It's a 2 seed.
West Virginia's a 2, right? I would say they're in that list, kind of.
They're in that list, but they're not the team I'm thinking of. And when I tell you who and why, you're going to be like, oh, yeah.
Who is it? Who would it be?
It's Florida.
Florida.
And a couple reasons. Okay, number one, like Florida's been playing like a 1 seed for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think anybody's excited about getting a Florida in your regional.
Right.
Florida has 2 options where it could go without flying. Do you know what they are? I'm sure you do.
Flying, Florida State would be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's one.
I guess flying, it won't like be specifically easy, but distance wise, Conway, right? Would it be there?
Oh, I didn't know about. I don't know if I checked Conway. Maybe I did. Clemson was the other one, and
okay.
they played the regional in Clemson last year. I was thinking it was the Super, but it was the regional. I don't know if Florida and Florida State have been matched up in the regional, and I don't know if they want to do that even. You know, I'm guessing the ADs would probably rather avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see how far they are to Conway. This says they're 412 to Conway.
Right. You could do, it's a little bit of a stretch. You could do those 2 South Carolina places.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're 449 to Clemson. So scratch that. They're 332 to Georgia Tech. So if I could see Tech, them finding a reason for Tech to get a host, and you won the ACC. Granted, it was the weaker part of the schedule, but you're let's see. Southern Miss 376. Ole Miss is not going to get sent to Georgia Tech, but okay. Well, really, it's just Florida mostly in terms of the 2s,
right?
So that could give the committee a little bit of an out. Yeah, Randall, let's hear it, man. Will Arkansas finally make it out of their own park? I think they will.
I think they will. Too good not to.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. We'll do one tonight. I think we'll go. I think the pairing, the hosts are going to be at 7. See, I have 2 trains of thought here. One is to go live and react to the hosting decisions, and then have a bracket and try to scramble to switch some stuff around, or to wait for the reaction. Wait to see it and then scramble my bracket. I think we just go live and react to the pairings and then go from there.
So too. That's where I
go. Josh, that's another tremendous question.
Yeah.
I think you send them to one of like a 12, 13, 14. And they may get sent to like Oregon or Oregon State.
Right. Well, D1 had them going to Tallahassee as that too.
Okay. Yeah.
So for whatever reason they did that. But that was where I saw them in a projection. So
yeah,
that's a great question, though.
Yeah, I do wonder if Georgia Tech's going to sneak in by virtue of UCLA laying an egg in Omaha today. 5-0 top of 8, Nebraska, by the way.
Big Nebraska crowd, as expected.
Yeah,
good
playing in Omaha. All right, Alfred, I'm done. Let's get out of here. Let's join the membership tier if you have it. Josh, thank you as always for generous super chats. We always appreciate those. Encourage those. Yeah, Northeastern's very scary as a 2.
Right.
I'm going to get back to work and crunch it all again, see where it spells out. We got a few more auto bids to work around. I'll get to those. We'll come back. I think don't don't write it in blood, but I think we'll come back around 7:15 Central tonight, watch the pairings as they're unveiled, or watch the regional hosts, and then give you our bracket. For Alfred Esmond, I'm Chris Lee. You're watching